Hi guys, welcome to episode 29 of my Mortal Realms review series. Joining me this week and possibly in the future is my wife. This is my wife Anna. She beats me and keeps me locked in the cellar. But also she's been building most of the scenery and she's actually expressed an interest in the army, whereas Julia, with her schoolwork just restarting and all the chaos going on, is just not having time. And also kind of would rather have the Ghoul Kings sets because they're less breakable, so she may be switching over. But let's get on. We're going to review this issue 29. Issue 29. Say hello.
I did. I'm waiting for the hello.
I never pay attention to what
No.
Right, the three reviews we got with this one are Nuln Oil and Baneblade Brown. Baneblade Brown is kind of a serviceable, kind of light muddy colour, named after the Baneblade tank in 40k, which is GW's futuristic fantasy game rather than this game, which is kind of swords and sorcery. Yeah, it's reasonably good. It's a solid paint to have in your collection. There's not much more you can say about it. It's a nice brown. On the other hand, Nuln Oil is skill in a bowl. You can pretty much paint everything with this and it'll give it a more three-dimensional look. It's not a black wash. It's got a slight browny, slight oily texture to it. It works pretty much as a black wash, and you really can't see the browny stuff unless you compare it. But the oily effect it has, and you can get a gloss version of it as well, but the oily effect it has is really good for painting armour and painting robotic joints and things like that, and will have a good effect on pretty much anything, including bones and flesh and that. It literally just it brings your models to life and makes them much more three-dimensional. You're allowed to say things.
Wow.
Ooh,
that's pretty good. That's pretty.
Yep, that's the Cauldron Blood. We've got the Forces of Chaos here, and basically they're showing us 3 of the demons on the front. I think we already had Nurgle, no, 4 of the demons, this is as well. Obviously we've got Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle and Slaanesh, which are all the different forces.
That's the big expensive ones.
Yes, these are the big expensive ones.
Pretty. Hello.
Say hello, Maxie.
Hello.
It's got little blurbs on each of them. Followers of Khorne are motivated only by the desire to slaughter and dominate. The followers of Tzeentch thrive on lies, illusions and corruption. Nurgle is the chaos god of plague and disease. Mortals who pledge their service to him swell with pestilence. Of course you do. Little kids always love Slaanesh. I don't know why that is. That's part of, I think, why they calmed Slaanesh down, because it's actually quite cool. And then we've got actually probably the newest model, and that's the Keeper of Secrets. Slaanesh once preyed on the darkest desires of the mortal races. Though the dark god is missing, his followers still believe he will rise once more. Obviously, if you're following the lore, there is more of an explanation as to where exactly he's gone and what exactly is happening with him. And then we've got some of the weirder, more esoteric stuff going along. For example, that is the Skaven Horned Rat, which is a greater demon of the Skaven god. The Skaven are a race of mutant rat men. They are the children of the Grey Horned Rat, the newest of the Chaos gods.
Ooh,
He's been around for a while, but he really didn't qualify for godhood. You've got the Dragon Ogres. They're a fairly old model, but still a fairly good one. They're some of the more powerful guys. Then you've got things like the Cygors, and then of course you've got Archeron on his many-headed Hellbeast. Dorgar, which you can kind of see represented the 3 main gods. The Horned Rat, not powerful enough to garner a place there quite yet. And Slaanesh is temporarily out of the loop, so that's pretty cool. Going back to costing this, little ones are about $2.75, big ones are about $4.55. meaning you're making about 725. Well, you're getting about 725. £7.25 worth of stuff. Meaning that the freebies don't quite cover the cost of the magazine this week, but that being said, as I said, the magazine itself is a good couple of quid's worth of magazine, so you're not losing out there. Signature from Ian there, our latent Chaos God. Then it starts to introduce Sigmar. I'm going to go through the Sigmar bit. Sigmar the God King is the ruler of Azir and the most powerful of humanity's gods. He is the eternal enemy of the dark gods of chaos. With the help of his Stormcast Eternals, he seeks to restore civilization and order to the mortal realms. What's that in there? Ooh, there's a tear in there. There's a tear. It's ruined. I should have to take it back to the newsagents.
Is that stuck?
Yeah, it's stuck. Oh, I should have to be careful with the next page. Yeah, the next page.
Yeah, it goes on to fine.
It then goes on to describe, and as always, I'm not going to read it all to you and spoil it. It then goes on to describe Sigmar and what he's all about. Then we've got more Sith Ragnar. Yeah, that's it. More stuff like
Ragnar.
the Kothian, who is a god beast. God beasts are a bit like independent chaos demons almost. They have kind of form, but they're also constructed of chaos magic. A Dracothian is like the god beast of the dragons, and he's just like a continent-sized dragon kind of thing. They're huge. They vary from Godzilla to Small Planet in size, so that's pretty cool. But he's also an ally of Sigmar. There are lots of kind of independent demons and independent kind of chaos gods. Sigmar himself is a god, and his power does, because that's the way the system works, come from chaos. I think the main thing to remember is a lot of the lesser gods have specific worshippers in the Mortal Realms and are near them, whereas the chaos gods, whilst they have specific worshippers, they're kind of more generally about. They live over multiple they live in warp space, which spreads over multiple universes and multiple places. So the reason that Sigmar, for example, has been able to hold them back is because of A, the rules that govern the mortal realms, and B, the fact that whilst you're getting a lot of whilst Sigmar's getting a lot of their attention, he's not getting all of their attention. They are doing a dozen other things at once, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, and you've got the Stormcast Eternals little blurbs there about how Sigmar made them. And of course, there's his hammer, Galmaraz, which is literally the symbol of the Age of Sigmar. Next, we've got the Lord Celestant. Basic description here. The Lord Celestants bear the burden of command, leading vast war hosts of Stormcast Eternals to war. Each of these immortal generals was a mighty warlord or warrior, even before they became a Stormcast Eternal, for Sigmar only entrusts the leadership of his armies to the most gifted. And there's a cool dragon. And here you got a phantom. I mean, that's cool.
That's pretty.
I don't think we're going to get one of those.
No,
You've got
that looks expensive.
Lord Celestant or Stardrake, and then you got a guy riding Dracos. Ooh, you can read these bits.
Oh,
For
must
the
I?
Ancient Dead.
The whole thing? The
I
Ancient
just read
Dead?
that bit.
In the course of my travels, I've learned that no deceased mortal is beyond the reach of powerful death magic, even if all that remains of their physical form is a fleshless skeleton.
We've got some basic descriptions of the skeletal legions there, and some cool artwork. And the Death Rattle legions, scattered across the mortal realm, are kingdoms of the grave, ruled over by ruthless undead kings. The skeletal armies.
Odd skull, to be honest.
Yeah, that's GW's artwork.
That's me being art critic, yeah.
The skeletal armies they lead are referred to as Death Rattle legions. We've got an awesome little picture of a guy there, but his jaw doesn't quite make sense, which is
quite common in GW artwork.
Yeah, and he's lit from the inside.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've got some stuff there like Black Knights, Whites, and Grave
What
Guard.
does he remind me of? He reminds me of something from something I've watched.
Probably Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
He's got the hat.
Yeah,
He's got the hat.
Yeah.
He's
He
going
looks a
through
bit like
kind
one
of
of the Wraith Kings.
the basic skeletal armies, which are rare but are still a thing. Then we've got how to paint stormcasts. They're actually quite good. Got little guides there. With this one, it's recommending non-oil, Mephiston Red, Agrax Earthshade, Rakath Flesh, and Reikland Flesh Shades. There's a lot of shades there. And it's also going through the extra bits. The reason it's got more shades than anything else, I think, is because it's going over all the other stuff you've already done. Obviously, this will culminate with it's got there and bits there. So this is going to add to your previous bits and get everything going. Then Night Haunt, just using non-oil. I told you it's really good. And you're going over everything. You're going over everything with a black non-wash. Well, pretty much. Not the blue bits, but everything else. And that is what those guys should look like. Wow. We've got the stats here for the Lord Arcanum, which we've already got the model for the Lord Arcanum, so I'll go through those. You'll get more to say with more skeleton-y ones.
I'm alright.
Plus, no, you're not. Not even so anyway, no.
Takes me to know one.
She's just getting into it, so she's just learning some of the lore. But how they work, I'll explain to them and I'll show you how they work at the same time. It's got a wounds of 7, a move of 12, a save of 3+, and a bravery of 9. Obviously, wounds take 7 wounds. That's the
hit
inches
points,
it can move.
basically.
Save, you roll a 3+ on a dice to save against hits that are made. And bravery of 9. If you're running away from things, you roll, and if you roll subtracting the amount of people that have died and stuff. And if you beat that number, or if you get lower than that number, you're fine. If you get higher than that number, run away. He's equipped with the Ether Staff, or Aether Staff, depending on how you want to pronounce it, which has got a range of 2 inches, which is good. 4 attacks, and the standard 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound, a rend of 1 and D3 damage, so anything up to 12 hits on that one is a possibility. And where are we? It is blah blah blah. What is he running here? Yeah, his Grift Charger has Razor Beak and Claws, which are 1 inch, which is unsurprising, which 3 attacks, 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound, -2 to random, 1 damage. So again, got a maximum of 3 attacks there, taking to 15 potential wounds if you're really lucky. Abilities, he's got Ethereal Strike. If the unmodified hit roll for the attack made with the Grift Charger's Beak and Claws is 6, that attack inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target, and the attack sequence ends. If you get a mortal wound, they can't save against it. And what it means when the attack sequence ends here is if you get a 6 to hit, you don't have to roll to wound. They don't get an armor save, they just take a wound. Some mortal wounds you can...
So the 6 is almost a bit like a D20.
Yeah.
Like a natural 20.
Very much, yeah. Some mortal wounds require you to make a wound roll. Almost no mortal wounds get armor saves that I've heard of. Then you've got Cycle of the Storm. Once per turn, when a friendly Storecast Eternal is slain within 18 inches of this model, so that's a good radius there. You got to remember, with these things, if they say within 18 inches, you're measuring from the model 18 inches. So that gives you like a circle, which in this case
like
would be...
36 inch.
Yeah, 36 inch circle. Particularly on the new size boards, that's going to cover a lot.
How small are they making the new size boards now again? Quite small.
Can't remember off the top of my head, but they now design...
Sounds like almost half the board is going to be...
Possibly even less. Some of you guys may be aware, some of you guys maybe not. Mortal Realms 40k were both originally played on 6x4 tables. That's because when I was a kid, everyone's parents had a massive great dining table in their back room that they never used because it was for visitors. So it freed you up to have something nearly 6x4. These days, people don't tend to have as much room. Most houses aren't built as big. You know, the rooms in them are built smaller so you can get more houses in. So GW have finally bowed to the pressure of people going, we don't have 6x4 tables, and start making the official battle zones smaller. I cannot off the top of my head remember what they are at the moment because it goes, my head reverts to 6x4. But I think there's something along the lines of you get 3 times the battle mats we get or something like that laid next to each other, which is cool because hopefully that means they'll be matching And a lot of the stuff is shifting to smaller tables just because people don't have the space for a 6x4 table these days. Anyway, yeah, but even on a 6x4 table, which I believe there is still the option to play on a full size table, 36 inches, that's 3 foot. So a 3 foot radius is most of the length of the table, and
kind of thing, isn't it? Really.
You can tell it's, you know, she's raised her arms too big, but it's not her fault. I lied to her as to how big 12 inches is. But it is going to cover big areas of the table with this. The model can heal 1 wound allocated to it. This model cannot use this ability on itself. I'm not sure how that would work against multiple wounds. If you get 4 wounds and you've got 3 wounds, if you heal 1 of them, I'd assume you're still dead, but I'm sure it'll say on the next page. You've got Ride the Winds Etheric. Your movement phase, this model can ride the Winds Etheric instead of moving normally. If it does so, it can roll 66 and move up to a number of inches equal to the result in the direction chosen. So you can't actually go off the board because you can move up to. It moves over terrain and other models as if it could fly, which Rift Chargers can't fly. I had to look at it. Do they have wings? They don't have wings. It must end the model more than 3 inches from an enemy model. If this is impossible, it cannot move at all. This model cannot charge in a turn in which it rides the Winds of Theory. So that's really good to get from one end of the table to the other. When combined with Cycle of the Storm, you can really bolster your models there. Saving this area. Spirit Flasks, obviously he's got that. We've already we've already discussed Spirit Flasks, but I'll go through it again. Shatter 1, 2 or 3 Spirit Flasks. So once per battle, at the start of the combat phase, you can say this model will shatter 1, 2 or 3 Spirit Flasks. If you do so, each unit within 3 inches of this model suffers 1 mortal wound for each Spirit Flask shattered. Units within...
Hey. Shh. Stick at you two.
Units within 3 of this model with 10 or more models suffer D3 mortal wounds. So that's pretty cool. This model is a wizard, so he's a wizard, which is why he's called Lord Arcanum. He's got Healing Light, which has a casting value of 5. Pick a friendly Stormcast model with an 18 of the caster. Heal D3 wounds have been allocated to that model, so he's really good at keeping your heroes alive. With a potential of 4 wounds, you can only sort of say 2 models. It doesn't say unit, it says model. So he's really good at keeping your heroes alive, and could keep units in a fight if you desperately needed it. Obviously, if you're healing a 1 or 2 hit model, it's only going to get 1 or 2 hits back. You're not going to give it 3 hits even if you roll D3. Prime Electrids. That sounds weird. I think you get drinks full of electrics for athletes, don't you?
That's electrolytes.
Oh. If this model successfully casts Arcane Bolt and it is not unbound, then this spell inflicts D3 mortal wounds instead of 1, or D6 mortal wounds instead of D3 if the caster was rolling 10 plus. So it's a bit more of a powerful version of basically if this model successfully casts Arcane Bolt and it is not unbound. And of course everyone knows Arcane Bolts. So yeah. So this guy's got basically an upgraded Arcane Bolts. Soul Energy. A Lord Arcanum can enhance the soul energy of nearby units from the Sacrosanct Chamber, allowing them to perform extraordinary deeds. Let's have a look. Hero Phase, you use soul energy. Hero Phase, you use this ability in your hero phase. Pick a friendly unit who is wholly within 9 inches. And if that sounds a small area, remember It's within 9 inches is both sides, so that's a total radius of 18 inches there.
9 inches?
Something. The unit can automatically cast Empower in that hero phase, no casting roll required. So he can make evocators basically just bunk Empower, which is nifty. So he casts it on the evocators cast it on another unit, so it kind of chains off there with everyone working together, so that's cool. And then we've got in the shooting phase, and this is the same command. If you affect castigators in the shooting phase, again we're holding within 9, you can use their etheric channeling to increase the accuracy and power of the unit's Thunderbow Greyheads in that shooting phase instead of choosing only one of those options. So you get 2 for the price of 1. In the combat phase, if he chooses the Sequitors, again wholly within 9, a friendly unit with this command ability, you can use the etheric channeling to increase the power of the unit's weapons and shields in that combat phase instead of only choosing one. So basically this guy is a buff hammer working really well to enhance your army. What have we got? Weirdly enough, he only has an exclamation for 2 of them and not the third one. Yeah, it has an explanation for Cycle of the Storm. We don't have an explanation for Healing Light specifically. No, what's that? Yeah, we don't. Oh no, it's Cycle of the Storm I was worried about, yeah. When an Eternal dies in battle, captures or return to their body, they may rise once more and continue fighting without returning to the Azir to be reforged. So, again, the example they give is the Sequitur loses 2 wounds and then is dead and then is given 1 wound back. So, looking at this, I think if you take, say, 5 wounds, you die, the excess wounds are discarded, then he gives you 1 wound back. So, looking at it, it looks like it is a resurrection spell, basically, for dead guys. Resurrects them with 1 wound, but does bring them back. So that's pretty cool, particularly if you've got like a badass and you want that 1 extra counter attack. I'm just checking any limitations. Yep, even my friend Stormcast Eternal. So that's anybody with the Stormcast Eternal keyword. So that's that'll work on heroes and stuff as well. Do you want to try reading the Night of Shrouds?
No.
Well, we go start off with that bit. So he's got
12-inch range for movement.
Yep.
+4 in saves.
Yep.
10 bravery and 6 for a wound count.
Yeah, so that's fairly respectable. It's not as bad as the previous guy, but this guy doesn't run armies. He's more like runs things.
Well, he's a knight as opposed to a lord, so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you've got the weapons are just here.
The Sword of Stolen Hours, which is a 1-inch range with 4 attacks. 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound.
That's slightly better than a lot of the other troops we've seen.
-1 to rend.
-1 means where you have a 3+ wound there.
Yeah.
-1 would ironically move it up, but it subtracts 1 from the dice roll. So instead of rolling a 3+, you'd have to roll a 4+.
Okay, and a damage of 2.
Yeah. Basically, what it does is if you rolled a 3, it would then subtract 1 from the dice roll, making that 3 a 2, which would fail. So you're going to have to roll a 4, and then it subtracts 1 from the dice roll, making that a 3, which succeeds. Most of the time, we just assume that we just change the original number. Oh yeah, it's just 4+. We don't go through all that math, but that's how it actually works.
Yeah, but it's a bit complicated to write out if you're just trying to remember your specific current.
It's easy.
Characters.
You just forget it. You go right. Add 1 to the add 1 to the save.
And then ghostly hooves and teeth. I'm guessing that's his mount that does that bit.
Yep,
I'm guessing, which has a 1-inch range as well. 2 attacks, +4+ to hit, and 5+ to wound. Doesn't have a rend.
Because he's
and
not a knight. Yeah.
Just a damage of 1.
Yeah, and the other one had a damage of 2, which I think we missed. But that does mean with 4 attacks, you are potentially capable of doing 8 wounds, and with a render -1, it's going to work nicely on some people.
Oh, that sounds very pretty. The Stolen Hours description.
Yep.
Bearer of a sword of stolen hours can steal vital energy from a foe and use it to increase their own power. That sounds like something I want in D&D.
Well, if Julie's not playing this model, you can have them paint it. I've stuck it together for already.
Yeah, but I like the sticking together. That's my
there's
favourite part.
there's loads of ones to stick together. It is full of us, isn't it? Right. And then his ability, that stuff they know about. Obviously, it's a mount. So
his mount is the model's ethereal steed attacks with ghostly hooves and teeth. Yeah,
and then
like I
fly.
said. Yeah, and fly. It can fly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that the mount that flies? I'm guessing.
It could be, but with a lot of the these models, the fly bit, A, they kind of float along the ground, like, as ghosts are wont to do, and B, it's there to represent the fact that ghosts can move through things. Flying creatures ignore scenery, so they can fly over scenery. Ghosts may not actually be flying, but they move through the scenery as if it wasn't there.
They can. It's the same, basically. You ignore the scenery. Yeah.
So they just use a pre-existing rule which did the same thing, rather than making that part of the ethereal rule.
And its abilities is that it's ethereal, which means any creature whose bodies have rotted away are difficult to harm with ordinary weapons. Well, duh.
And
you ignore the modifiers, positive or negative, when making save rolls for attacks that target this model.
Yep. And then you've got that ethereal, everything in the army has that. The Stolen Hours is its special one.
Is its special one that we just already said. So allocate wounds inflicted by this model's sword of Stolen Hours before allocating wounds inflicted by the ghostly hooves and teeth.
Yeah, he's faster, but that's not the special ability. The special ability will
Each time a wound inflicted by his model's sword of Stolen Hours slays an enemy hero, heal 1 wound allocated to this model. So that's where he steals the energy.
Exactly, he vampires it. And the reason the word hero there is in bold is because it's a keyword. Like he has the hero keyword, so anything that affects heroes could affect
him as well.
In theory, you could put 2 Knights of Shrouds against each other.
Excuse the cat's tail.
And they would they could in theory, if they matched perfectly, they could in theory just permanently be stealing life back
and just bounce back and forth between each other. Let me take my cat. Meow, 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 meow. Hey, Fatty. This is Charlie. She's a fat bumhole, but we love her.
And I'll hold this one. He's also got command ability, which is Lord of Geists.
And it always hurts me when they use and misspell German words.
Oh no, that's the English spelling.
Oh, Old English, I suppose, yeah.
Where spelling was optional.
Isn't it still? Each Knight of Shrouds was a mighty general in mortal life and still retains the ability to spur their soldiery to great feats of arms. You can use this command ability at the start of the combat phase. If you do so, pick a friendly Knight Haunt unit that's wholly within 18 inches of a friendly model with this command ability. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of that unit's melee weapons in that combat phase. The unit cannot benefit from this command ability more than once per phase. And obviously Cat's Tail's hell. Superpower Cat's Tail. Oh!
I wasn't mean, I just gently moved her off the table. She just didn't like it.
Nudged my cat away.
Yeah. And so again, Knight of Haunt there.
Sif,
Knight of Haunt there
leave
is
Charlie
the
alone.
keyword. And again, you can see Knight Haunts down there underneath. So there's you'll have
So
lots of
it's all
keywords.
affects this one itself, basically.
Yeah, I mean, he is wholly within 8 inches of himself.
Yeah.
However, it would make more sense to cast on a big unit, because what that does is that affects the characteristic. It doesn't give you 1 more attack. It raises the characteristic of the... So, if a unit's got 10 models, you'll get 10 extra attacks, as each one of those units has its attack characteristic raised by 1. So, you're potentially doubling a number of units attacks. So, I mean, it's still good on a hero if you need it, but it works better on other things. And again, we've got the description or playthroughs of the things there. I mean, if the wife likes, I might play her through a few games, and that become a thing we do. I'm trying to find more things to do with the wife, because I love the wife. We don't do enough things together.
Happens when you get too many kids.
Happens when you get too many kids. We've got
get them.
Hallowstone Besieged, which is a nice little story just to get you happy for the game. And then we've got Battle Plan Breaking the Siege, which again still a very similar battle plan. I think until we get some more of the scenery, which we should be getting next week.
Yay.
Yeah, and then they add that to the few bits of scenery we've gotten so far. So we have had a couple of bits of scenery. We should be able to
Do it show what kind of scenery we're going to get again?
I'll show you in a minute.
Yay.
Hush, Sif.
The layout for this, it says lay out your battle mat and gather your dice, arrange rules and tokens, make sure if the rules reference sheet 1 at hand. You choose who's going to play which side, and then the setup instructions are 9 Haunt armies. You've got Knight of Shrouds, a Deadblade Harrow, 15 Chain Rasps, and 4 Glaive Stalkers.
Yeah.
The Stormcast have a Lord Arcanum, 5 Secretors, 4 Liberators, and 1 Prosecutor. But it's worth remembering that both those heroes buff those guys quite considerably. For example, with that ability where he gets 1 extra attack, you've got a few you've got the Dreadblade Harrow, but and the Glaive Weapons. They could each benefit from it, but the unit that's going to benefit the most is the Chain Rasp, because there are 15 of them. So if it casts that ability on the Chain Rasps, each one gets 1 extra attack. So you've given them 15 extra attacks, which is much more advantageous than giving it to the Dreadblade Harrow, who would only get 1 extra attack, for example. Then the setup is pretty standard. Printed terrain has no effect on your game. Models may move freely over it. No Haunt player sets up wholly within their territory. The Stormcast unit must be set up wholly within their territory. Twitch, sorry guys. Which is the standard setup we've been running. You have the scenery set up again there, which is the same place that we've always had it. If you're not sure as to where the scenery gets specifically set up, it's easy to spot because it gets set up on top of a picture of itself. Hopefully the next piece of scenery we get will also get set up on top of a picture itself. None of the stuff they've used so far uses the, I want to call it Sigma Mausoleum, but uses the graveyard we got.
Ooh, the pretty graveyard.
But I'm sure that'll come in later. And then again, Night Haunt player has the first turn, follow the instructions referenced on Battle Plans A, and it ends either glorious victory when when one player has no models left on the battlefield. Got the standard back page telling you to check out your local gaming stores and your local GW on the internet. There is so much stuff out there, totally do that. Oh, he's pretty. Next, there you go. That's tell you what we get next. Okay, and next week is issue 30. It's the other part.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I was going to say it reminds me of the bit I just did. So
issue 30, we're getting the Azerite Ruin, which is the second part of that the thing. So that's pretty cool. Then we've got Discover Zench, the God of Change, who is my preferred Chaos God, and a movement tutorial part 2. So you're going to get extra things on there. And in issue 31, we're going to get that guy, who is the Lord Exorcist. He makes sure you get a good amount of exercise. Magic in the Mortal Realms, setup objectives and tutorials. So we're going to hopefully start getting a little more complex in the battle plans, and that'll allow us to do more things. So you looking forward to that?
I am, definitely. Anytime I can build any nice scenery like that, it's pretty stuff.
That's pretty much the end of it, dude. So it's good night from me, and it's a good night from him. Her.